Good evening, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Stefan Molyneux from the future. freedomain.com/donate to help out the show. Happy to take your questions. Happy to take your comments. Happy to chew through philosophy with you. And just while we wait, if there's a caller, feel free to join us on X. These are the questions from Wednesday night, which we should get to. All right. And Steph, my sister is dating a guy who is stealing money from her and is an alcoholic and believes he's going to be an NHL, that's National Hockey League, player someday, somewhere. All right. He has no job either, but my sister keeps making excuses. What would you tell her if you were me? My sister has a good job and is overall doing well, but it's just the dating aspect of her life that has always been a mess. Yes. That is quite a challenge. I'm sorry to hear that, of course. That is quite a challenge. So, if you want to know what someone really thinks of himself, or in this case, herself, if you want to know what someone thinks of themselves deep down, look at who they have sex with. Look at who they pursue. Look at who they date. Look at who they are in romantic relationships and who the person is in with regards to romantic relationships is their deepest image of themselves. There's a lot of people out there who don't want love and believe that all they are worth is hedonism. Hedonism is simply high time preference and fear of virtue. A high time preference means you want things now rather than later, and fear of virtue. A lot of people use lust as a way of avoiding being judged. So if your sister is drawn towards what sounds like, a kind of trashy guy. And, of course, if I was talking to him, I find out about his childhood. There's always this balancing act that goes on, right? Which is we judge people until we find out more about their history, and then we have sympathy. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times. I actually had a call-in show this morning where I had to tell the guy to stop behaving in the way that he was behaving because I said, I can't give you good advice if I don't like you. And if you keep doing what you're doing, I'm this close to not liking you, in which case I can't give you the kind of advice that you need. So a lot of people will pursue lust, and maybe this guy is your sister's physical type or whatever. They will pursue lust because the judgment of a good person terrifies them. Right? The love, which is the judgment of a good, moral, honest person, terrifies them. So most of us have gone through the situation. Thanks, Mr. Ram, I'll get with you in a second. Most of us have gone through the situation. You know what? I'm not, I'll be honest. I mean, not that I'm not, but, I might as well be right. So when I was younger, so much younger than today, when I would be interested in a woman, there was a part of me that would filter for insecurity, incompetence, lack of self-esteem, and so on. And the reason was because I deep down didn't think that I would be good enough to hold on to the love and affection of a quality woman. Now, in hindsight, I do recognize that most of that had to do with not myself in particular, but the quality or lack of quality of the people around me. So you've heard me say this a bunch of times. What does the kind of man or woman that you want in return? Right? So if you're going for a job and you say, I only want to work 4 hours a day and I want to make $1 million a year. Okay. What is the person who will have you work 4 hours a day, 20 hours a week, and pay you $1 million a year? What do they want in return? Well, obviously they want more value than they're providing you. So if you want value, you have to provide value. And scanning for insecurity, scanning for perhaps incompetence, scanning for low self-esteem was the way in which my social environment protected itself from objective judgment. So let's say that I had met someone, I mean, my wife is highly competent and she practiced psychology. She was a psychologist for 27 years and very competent and runs things beautifully and really knows how to get things done. And I knew a guy and years ago. I never dated someone like this, but I knew a guy years ago who ended up marrying a woman despite the fact that she was afraid of the phone. You ever have this? Oh, I can't make that call. I'm too nervous. I'm too anxious. Oh, my wife has to pick up the phone and find out the facts and negotiate with someone. Well, shockingly, perhaps, to me, to some, when I first met her, she just picks up the phone, does her negotiation, gets things done, sorts things out, and is great at it. She doesn't need any hand-holding. She doesn't need anything like that. I mean, she likes having her hand held, but... So, if your sister is dating someone who's not good, who's not ideal, I mean, he sounds like a dreamer. He sounds like he's an addict. He sounds manipulative and so on. The question that I would ask is, imagine the highest quality person dating your sister, the highest quality person. Me. Oh, yeah, someone, right? Someone who's just, high quality, honest, direct, virtuous, and so on, and is looking for all kinds of good things from someone. Imagine someone like that dating your sister, right? Which means that you and your parents and any other sibling that your sister has, her friends, your friends, your family as a whole, would come under the objective judgment of a quality person. This is live, by the way. This is actual YouTube or someone re-uploading. Miss K. You can come back on X. Just be nice. Come back on X. Now, if a quality person, moral, honest, direct, blah, 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 were to date your sister, what would that person see, view, and judge, right? What would that person see, view, and judge? And I bet if a quality person were to date your sister, then he would be horrified as a whole. And that's why she dates a loser in order to protect the self-image of her family and her own self-image. All right. You're welcome. All right. So why am I keep clicking over here? Oh, yes, that's right. Okay, let me minimize that. Question from Sean. Sean the sheep. Question: if every man looked for quality wives, there wouldn't be nearly enough of them. Most of these women have 5 or more bodies, and there's no going back from that. Thoughts? Steph, most people can't be the top 1% of athletes, so should I play sports? Who gives a rabbit's cannon-fired shite about what other men end up with? What matters, Sean, is who you end up with. That's what matters. Oh, well, but there aren't enough high-quality people, enough high-quality men to go around. Aren't enough high-quality women to go around. What do you care about going around? I mean, I get there's society and so on, but that you can't control. That you can't control. What you can control is the qualities you develop and the quality of the woman that you get and keep in your life and your heart. You aim to be the highest quality person that you can, and you aim to attract and keep the highest quality person you possibly can. As far as society as a whole, well, I'll tell you this, man. Society as a whole can go frack itself with a greasy barge pole. That's what society as a whole can do. Society as a whole, you see, society as a whole wants free stuff, wants to throw you in prison for free speech, wants to rob you blind if you make any money, wants to grab your children and throw them into brain-shredding propaganda mills where your children will be drugged to the gills if they have more than 3.5 brain cells to run together. Your society as a whole wanted you held down and forcefully injected with DNA mystery juice that turned you into something that's a human being with an asterisk, right? You're a human being post-COVID, quote, vaccine shots, or you're a human being asterisk, now producing foreign object spike protein from here to eternity. Not quite the same. It's human being with a little asterisk. You know, when I was a big fan of Simon and Garfunkel when I was younger. Didn't really understand their background, so I was big. I am just a poor boy, though my story's seldom told. I have squandered my resistance. I was a big fan of Simon and Garfunkel, and I remember when I worked up north, it's long before internet radio or anything like that. When I worked up north, I had to grab some tapes. A huge fan of Sam Cooke, and I actually managed to find a Sam Cooke tape. Anyway, so I picked up Simon and Garfunkel. I just grabbed it because I had a lot of time to listen to music. And anyway, I just remember getting up north and I cracked it open, and I saw something a little different. Oh, James is saying we're not going someplace. I don't think it really matters. In particular, let me just see here. Yeah, okay, doesn't matter. All right, so when I unpack this tape, Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water, when you're weary, feeling small. And it said instead, sounds like. There was a little sounds like Simon and Garfunkel, and it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't Art Garfunkel and Paul Simon warbling away their unpacking of the most negative elements of American society, as these types of songwriters tend to do. Bob Dylan, Simon and Garfunkel, and the Wallflowers, and so on. I turn the engine, but the engine doesn't turn. Smells of cheap wine, cigarettes. This place is always such a mess. Sometimes I think I'd like to watch it burn. Sounds like it's not Simon and Garfunkel. Sounds like Simon and Garfunkel. And most people aren't people. They sound like people. They look like people. From a distance, they are people-ish. They're in the vicinity of people, but they're not people because they are selfish, and human beings have to be other-oriented in order to survive and flourish as human beings. I'll get into this more a little later if we have time, but the number one thing that guarantees someone's happiness and longevity in old age is the quality of their relationship at age 50. We are social animals, and I just had a whole call-in show today with an engineer about the fact that we're social animals and you need people. And if you don't have people, you got nothing. Less than nothing. So, yeah. Society as a whole, society as a whole can sit, squat, and rotate on a frackin' cactus for all I care. Society as a whole is full of mindless, hostile, greedy, entitled slaves who would love nothing more than to turn you inside out, looking for gold in your bald head like they do in Africa, where they think that bald guys have gold in their heads, so they hit them over the clubs and open up their heads looking for gold. And that's what they will do. They will enslave you as soon as look at you. They will sell you to the highest bankster bidder for the sake of a couple of free goodies in the here and now. They will change everything about your country in order to prop up their real estate values. People, as a whole, are sad, pathetic, terrible tyrants. Now, that having been said, there's gold in some people's heads. There's gold in some people's heads. But in order to survive the world to come, I write about this, of course, in my novel, The Present, which you should definitely read or listen to, freedomain.com/books. You have got to saw the fuck off your umbilical cord of empathy to survive what is to come. I'm not kidding about this. Deadly serious. You know, when your child is born, when your child is born, they have to cut the umbilical cord, right? And if they don't cut the umbilical cord, I don't imagine your child does very well, because the child was eating with his belly button, now needs to eat through his mouth. So if you have worries, thoughts, or concerns about society as a whole, just ask yourself. I mean, you don't need to listen to me. Just look at your own life experience. Just ask yourself. How has society as a whole treated me, particularly if you're a white male? How has society as a whole treated you? How were you treated as a baby? How were you treated as a toddler? How were you treated in daycare? How were you treated in school? Did anybody give a flying frack about what you cared about or were interested in or wanted to study in school? Or, particularly again as a white male, were you told that you were responsible for all the sins in the known universe? That you were bad, evil, racist, sexist for existing? If you're a male, you're part of the patriarchy. Society as a whole. This is why, people are going to be replaced by AI and they're going to have a tough time. It's like, good. Because society as a whole only cares about you in the way that a farmer cares about his livestock, to milk you dry and then disassemble you for parts. I was born, as you were born, into hundreds of thousands or $1 million or more than $1 million of debt. That's how much society cares about you. Screw you, kid. You're going to be born with manacles around your balls. That's your life. Sorry, we needed to buy votes. You can't have a job because we need to bring people in who vote for the left. You can't have a thought or an opinion of your own because we've hired hysterical, often female, leftist neurotics who can't handle any more difference of opinion. They handle a difference of opinion about as well as a toddler handles sticking a fork into an electrical socket, with similar hairstyles after a moment. Sorry, kid. Shame. Man, sucks to be you. Sucks to be you. But I'll tell you what, when you're born, we're going to take a giant frackin' stapler and we're going to staple privilege to your forehead. And then, because you have that word privilege stapled to your forehead, you will get the living shite kicked out of you for the rest of your life. That's society as a whole. Society as a whole, it's a bunch of manipulative, bullshit predators who will say anything and do anything to get you to cough up half of your entire adult labor so that they can bribe the less competent and give idiots access to your scarce wealth so that you can't have kids, but everybody else on the planet gets to have kids. So if you are still out there trying to think about the good of society as a whole, I invite you to take a mirror and look at your entire life and see how much society as a whole has cared about you. I invite you. Has society treated you with tender concern and thoughtfulness, and how are you doing, and what's best for you, and what would be the ideal situation for you, and we really care about our society will say all this shit. Oh, we care about the children and the children. What do they actually do? They sell you, they control you, they bully you, they frighten you, they terrorize you. Like 21 years ago, I was telling my audience that global warming was nothing to fear. I did entire interviews with experts 20 plus years ago for this audience saying it's nothing to fear. Don't let them get in your head and don't let them ruin your life with their lies, because that's what they want to do. Now, what's happened to global warming? Yeah, I'm real sorry that your entire childhood got drowned in a miasmic, foggy lava of terror and fear and horror of the future, but we're going to have to let all that global warming go because big daddy government and media, well, I'm sorry, we need a lot more surveillance tools, and that's going to mean building a lot of data centers. Sorry. Shame about your childhood, kids. But we need new surveillance tools, so now global warming doesn't matter anymore. That's how much society as a whole cares about you. Try going to your parents and complaining about your childhood. Try going to your parents and complaining about society. Try going to your parents and complaining about national debts, demographics. They'll screw you up and shut you down. Society as a whole is a bunch of whingy vampires who love nothing more than to wake up at noon and fasten themselves on the productivity you've been sweating for since 6 a.m. That's society as a whole. Oh, but there aren't enough good women to go around for all the men. Jesus. And look, I understand. I sympathize. Nothing wrong with thinking about society as a whole. But when I think about society as a whole, I want to get into a hazmat suit so that the vile, sticky, oozing ichor of self-righteous, virtue-signaling predation doesn't get within 6 miles of my delicate pores. All right. We have questions. Yes, we do. Mike, if you would like to unmute, I would be beyond thrilled to hear.
Hi, Stefan.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I had a question regarding the financial situation in the United States right now, and what your recommendation would be for somebody in their early 40s with kids in high school in terms of what we should expect, obviously with everything going on economically, politically, what you, as Nostradamus.
Oh, did we lose him? Going once, going twice. Can't hear you, brother. I mean, it really depends. If your children are white males, then you are going to have a big problem. I don't know why you would put your kids in school these days, government schools. It's incomprehensible to me. So you want to homeschool as much as possible, and you want to teach and learn as many entrepreneurial skills as possible, because you are not going to get a job if you are a white male in the West. 90% of the jobs go to women. to people who are new to the country and so on. So you got to get your kids into entrepreneurial stuff, and you got to seek opportunities, and you've got to maximize your contacts, and you start to create parallel networks because society is arrayed and arraigned against you. So, all right. Sorry that we lost you.
Hi there.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes. When I say hello back, it means I can hear you. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So my question is about identifying moral principles. I'm having a hard time identifying my own, but also with others. And so, like in particular, I'm like curious about this particular moral principle of like being committed to being quote nice to people, polite, get along. So that's my question.
A moral principle called being nice to people and getting along?
Yeah, I think that kind of goes along with like conformity or like not upsetting people. I'm I'm still trying to. I mean, sorry, I don't completely understand what a moral principle is.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about being nice to people and getting along. Do you think that I try to get along with people and be nice to everyone?
um, I, yeah, I think you do, but I don't think you compromise your honesty, at least in terms of a principle like a principle approach to let's see. Mm. I'm I'm a bit confused myself. Like by the
Okay, so
question.
I'm sorry, just this. So, where do you think you got that getting along with everyone and being nice to people was a moral principle?
Uh, Listening to some podcasts of yours, you were referencing kind of like you talked briefly about moral principles and how like they're universally preferable behaviors, but like you can claim something's a universally preferable behavior, but in fact it's not um when you dig into it. And so that's what got me thinking about it. And so that's where I got that idea that there are some that they take that into a moral principle and then they act that out where they're always, um, they're always trying to get along with people. I
Okay, so
guess,
so you did not
yeah.
get from me that UPB is being nice to everyone and getting along with everyone. I've never said that. That's never been part of my thinking, and that's fine. I just want to be clear to the audience that that's never been something that I have recommended. In fact, I would specifically not recommend that.
Oh,
Are
I'm
you a white
sorry
male?
for, yes.
Okay, so how nice over the course of your childhood, and maybe you had it different than most people that I know and most things that I've seen. So, how nice has society been to you over the course of your childhood and young adult life as a white male?
Um, Society for me hasn't been nice. I've been mostly ostracized.
Go on.
Uh, well, in my case, I look white, but I'm technically mixed race, and so my father was very well known in the town. He had a very successful restaurant, and the town was changing, and so like a lot of people were moving out because it got too expensive, and it seemed as though like my father, people in the town just didn't like my father, and so therefore they didn't like me, and then because I looked white, I think that it just added to that. It was like a double negative.
Sorry, that's interesting. So, your father had a very successful restaurant in a town where no one liked him. Sorry, I'm sure I'm
Uh,
missing something. So, if you could break that out for
so
me.
it was very successful, and then as the economy changed, it was a town on the coast. It was a beach town, so it went from just just being more or less a town that had stuff in it to to a popular destination, and so the demographics was changing to the new demographics, just like my father's restaurant, more and more. And so, like his income came from tourists coming or people that used to live in that town coming back to eat his food and enjoy the beach. And so that's how it also his restaurant declined at that point over the years. He owned it for 30 years. And so for the first like 15 years was very successful. And then there was a decline, in particular after the 2008 financial crisis.
Okay. So to be blunt and of course correct me where I'm wrong, did your father have a restaurant that catered to white people and then a fair number of Hispanics came in and the restaurant wasn't as popular? Is that right?
Um, yeah. Um, yeah. And in particular, it was a Mexican restaurant. And even the Hispanics didn't like my father's kind of, I guess you could describe as like a white twist to his Mexican food.
Okay. Oh, so he had a Mexican restaurant, but it was considered too white for the Hispanics. Is that right?
Yeah, as well as the because it's like the town that I grew up in, it became progressively more left, and it's predominantly like filled with artists and such. It's like an artsy town, and so they started leaning more left, where they're like, "Oh, I want authentic Mexican food," and so I
Okay,
think that's
got it.
also where some disinterest came.
And were you in public school?
Um, yeah,
Okay.
for the most part, yeah.
And what was your experience in public school?
Let's see my experience. Uh, I mean, I got suspended. I remember once, and they wanted to put me also on ADHD medication. I remember that. Um, I was. I mean, it wasn't a good. It wasn't a good experience. It was hard for me to find friends. It's there were some kids that they started a rumor, and because I live in a small town, everyone knows everybody. I just remember that these just I just sorry, it's kind of a difficult time that I'm thinking about, so I'm having a hard time thinking
Okay,
about
so
that.
it was
Yeah.
negative. You were bullied. They wanted to
Yes.
drug you, and you were suspended. And did the teachers ever seem to care about what you wanted to study and learn and what you were interested in and what got you excited to come to school and to learn?
No, they weren't. In particular, they got more annoyed at me because I would get bullied, and then I would confront them back. Sometimes even in the media, it's like, "Why are you doing this to me? Stop it!" And I remember uh, my fourth grade teacher just consistently being frustrated and annoyed at me, not at the kids bullying me.
Okay. And were you respected as a male? Were you respected in terms of your culture and your history?
No, I remember feeling guilty about like the sins of Western civilization, and
Yeah,
that
slavery
affected me a long time.
and the pillaging of the resources and environmentalism and global warming and the destruction of the indigenous population and colonialism and blah 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 blah. So, all
Yeah,
of the sorts of sins and terrible things were heaped upon you as a helpless, tender-hearted, intelligent little boy, right?
yeah.
Why would you want to be nice?
Uh, well, because I figured that that strategy would like lessen the hostility people had towards me.
Okay. And this has been a strategy that Europeans or Westerners have been pursuing for 70, 80 years. How's that working for us?
Poorly. Actually, maybe even fatal.
So look, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just asking about the be nice, get along with people. I assume you've had that as a value for many years, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I
And what you
even
still
do.
do, because you're asking me about virtues, and one of the virtues is be nice and try to get along with people and so on. And what decade of life are you in?
I just started my 30s.
Okay. So you've been doing this for most of your life. And listen, maybe it's worked out for you. I'm not trying to put you in a corner or anything like that. But because you have a very tentative way of speaking, again, I'm not trying to make fun of you or be negative or anything like that, but you have a very tentative and perhaps over-eager or over-conciliatory way of speaking, and maybe that's working for you. I'm not, saying, of course, well, how could it be? That would be the wrong thing to do because I'm an empiricist. So it sounds like being relatively tentative and deferential and trying to get along with people and trying to have people like you and so on, is that getting you what you want in your life? And again, this is not a prejudicial question. Maybe it is, but is it?
Oh, it's an excellent question. So personally, like as as an individual, it's like disheartening and kind of like uh I feel as though like my soul is rotting away. But like externally, like getting along with people, I mean it's worked very well. But it's like that the thing you've mentioned where well, sorry, not that you mentioned. What comes to mind is something you've said, which is you've never retracted, and I've never retracted or said you retracted any. Sorry,
I've
you've
never
never.
withdrawn something I know to be true. So go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, and I found that I've always found that inspirational, but also I'm a bit envious, and I've definitely lived my life the opposite of that.
Oh, sorry, but
At
you
least
said
I'm
that it's working out for you, right?
yeah. I mean, yeah, it is working, but it comes at a cost. It comes at
No, I mean, come
a
on.
personal cost.
Everything comes with a cost. We're intelligent people here. We don't need to, well, I learned the guitar, but that meant I wasn't learning the piano. Like, okay, we understand. You don't need to say that. Okay, so let me ask you, do you have a woman in your life who respects and admires and loves you?
No, I do.
Well, that's the cost. Why? Why is that the cost?
Um, Why would that be the cost?
Because men are providers and protectors. Can you be a provider and protector if you just want to get along with everybody and have everybody like you?
Right.
Tell me a little bit about your dating history.
Um, the last time I dated, and my last relationship was when I was 23, I think. Yeah, something like that. But since then, I'm it's kind of the same thing with friends as well. I guess since I can't be, no, I can't be. Sorry, uh, I choose not to be honest with people. I just don't. There's just less value in the relationships that I'm able to comfortably find, and so it's turned into an isolating experience. I'm sorry if that's kind of dodging the question.
It's very abstract, which is fine. I mean, it's a philosophy show. So you have been without a woman for close on a decade, 7, 8 years, right?
That's correct.
Why?
Uh,
What's your reason?
my reason, my reason is I I'm not sure actually of my reasons.
Is it something that bothers you or troubles you?
Yes.
And when did it first begin to trouble you?
It began to trouble me after I broke up with my last girlfriend.
Okay,
So
so
when I was 23.
yeah, so 7 or 8 years, you've been troubled by this, and So you've had 7 or 8 years to think about it. So how could you not even have a theory as to what's happening? I mean, you're an intelligent guy, verbal guy, cause and effect guy, thinking deeply about abstract ethics and morals, and good for you. I think that's great. But if you've been thinking about something for 7 or 8 years and you're an intelligent, analytical fellow, forgive me, I do not for a moment believe you don't have at least a theory or a number of theories.
Right. You're right. I'm sorry about that. One of my theories is that I'll just I'll choose well, this is a sorry. So one of my theories, I was a very I used to be very lustful, and so I was concerned about choosing the wrong woman, and that was one of my theories. And then one more that I want to pair that with is I wanted to get away from my family of origin, and so I wanted to resolve that first, and then start dating afterwards. So I didn't want to be dating and be like, oh, here's my family. Um,
Okay, so lust and concern about your family of origin driving away a good woman, is that right?
yeah, that's a better way of putting it.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to make a better way. I just want to make sure I understand. And I'm really sorry about this, of course. It's a very sad situation when your family of origin is a barrier to who you can date, right? Your ceiling of who you can date is the worst close relationship you have. And if you have a family who treats you badly, that's going to be a ceiling on the quality of person you can debate. And what's the status of you and your family at the moment?
Um, the status, it's I'm still with them. Like right now, I'm living with my grandmother, and that's on my mother's side. And but um it's sorry, it's difficult to want to share. Yeah, I guess I'm still around my family of origin, and I've had some honest conversations, but it's not it they're not sufficient honest conversations to really um like well they're not sufficient.
So your family has not been fixed or hasn't transformed into a set of people who reliably treat you well.
Well, considering some of the things they did to me during my childhood, I can't see them providing restitution. Anyways, it
And what are some of the things they did?
well, so first, my parents they divorced. Sorry, my parents divorced. My mother divorced my father when I was 6 years old, and that was very messy. I remember my father, um, like very cleverly, um, well, actually not clever. My father. Um, my father manipulated me into taking his side, and I remember getting really angry at my mother and resentful towards this guy she got together with, uh, which turns out that my mother wanted to leave my father to be with that guy. I didn't know that at the time, but so that's all. Like for example, my father's side during the as a 6 year old boy being um, my father did that to me, for example. And on my well, before I go to my mother, do you have any questions about my father?
No, I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry, but go ahead.
And then with my mother, the guy that she chose, he was quite unstable. Already had two kids that were older than me. They were they were very unstable, scary people. And so I got to live with them part of the time. And I got to hear how my mother was, for some reason, was trying to take me away from my father. And I remember being pretty annoyed and upset about that. And um, I remember I had a lot of bad experiences with them. And I remember looking back, like this one time um, I accidentally hurt myself. And I remember realizing it was instinctual and intentional. And I remember thinking it over in my 20s, and I realized that I needed to injure myself to see if I would still be taken care of, because there was this immense amount of neglect and no comment or even care consideration for how so much was changing in my life, and nobody was doubling back and seeing if I was okay with it, if I had any worries or concerns. It was kind of like being strapped on the top of a fast moving car, and everyone's giggling and having a good time in the cabin, and I'm just terrified and hoping I don't get killed, because it's a very anyways, that's as far as I can take that analogy. But it was it was a very tumultuous time, and I was just I think by then I was more closer to 7, but yeah.
I'm sorry about that too. And what did your step siblings do to you? And were you physically punished in any way?
I wasn't physically punished, but there was so for example, one of the step siblings, she was I think 17 at the time, and she was trying to think of what might have been going on. Well, nevertheless, she was acting to me very crazy, yelling, screaming. I remember once she accused her own father of not being her own father. Her mother was a drug addict, and I learned later on that she was like stalking the house, or at least occasionally like coming by uninterrupted. I mean, unannounced. It never
I'm
happened
sorry,
around me.
who was stalking? Oh, the mother who was the drug addict was stalking the house.
Yeah,
Okay.
who's part of the other.
What did she do to you?
She never did anything to me. Oh,
The
the
step
steps.
sibling, sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, she was just like unhinged and scary. And so for me, it was like, I don't want to invoke this like rage and anger onto me for whatever reason. And so for me, it was like, I felt like I was walking on eggshells around her. And, um, and she was happily would join in when my stepfather would mock and belittle me. She would join in, and so I remember being very scared and concerned. I remember they would be like, "Stop smacking your lips," and I'm just eating normally, and no one had ever complained about that until I started living with them, and I just remember I remember being terrified of her, and then with the stepbrother, um uh actually I don't really remember much when it comes to him.
Wait, what do you mean?
Nothing's coming to mind in particular with him.
With your
Um,
stepsister and your stepfather, you said they would join in mocking you, and other than your lip smacking, possible lip smacking, what did they say? How did they put you down?
let's see. Uh, I remember I used to when I would when I would dry myself with a towel, I wrapped it around my like chest, as a woman would do. And I just did that because, I mean, that's what I saw with my mom, and I didn't realize that's not what you need to do, or it's just not what guys do. And so I remember she noticed that one day, and she just made fun of me and consistently kept making fun of me. It's like, oh, that's just weird. And this is the early 2000s. So they're like, that's kind of gay. And I was just like, I was pretty embarrassed by that. Even though I didn't really understand what gay was in particular, I just knew
Sorry,
it was a
and how
bad
old were
thing.
you?
I was 7 at the time.
Yeah. What do you know, right? I mean, you just, like I saw my mom biting her nails, and I was like, when I was a little kid, and I was like, oh, that's what people do. They bite their nails. So, I mean, you copy, right? That's what you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you weren't physically punished, or were you?
The closest, most of the time it was just like threats and yelling. I mean, I don't think this is physical punishment, but once I got, I tried to ruin my stepdad's birthday, and it was more like I was just being defiant. But to me, I was like, oh, this will sour the party, and because I was very angry at him. Something my father told me, and so then I essentially like went after him. And he got so angry he like pulled out my bed out of my
Wait,
room
hang on.
and
Gets too
uh,
fast. How old were you, and what do you mean by went after him?
I was I was 7 at the time, maybe like 7.5. Uh, and um, I guess no, sorry. What I mean by I went after him is that I from what I remember being told something. I was very angry, and so I made a plan. I said, "Oh, his birthday's coming up. I'm going to I'm I'm going to be I'm going to be difficult, disagree. I
Okay,
actually I
stop,
don't
stop,
remember
stop.
what it
Oh my
did,
God,
but
bro. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm sorry, and I don't mean to make you self-conscious, but you realize you start the same sentence 3 or 4 or 5 times?
Oh, really? I'm so sorry.
So I just want to do, and I was thinking that what I was going to do, and I was going to do. Well, what I was, you start the same. And listen, it's not. I'm not a big criticism. It's not any kind of criticism. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I wasn't aware of that right now.
And I say this with great sympathy because it comes out of a fear of getting things wrong, a fear of being punished.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
if somebody's being cross-examined by some hostile prosecutor, and 10 years in prison is on the line, the fear of making a mistake, getting the wrong answer, and so on is very high. And I think that's your approach to these kinds of questions and it takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing, which is, even though you're anonymous, right? It takes a lot of courage to reveal these negative things from a dysfunctional family. It goes very much against the omerta, right? The vow of silence, or the demand for silence that is required by these kinds of situations. So, a great respect and great admiration for your courage, but it's tough. Is like is your heart pounding? Is your fight and flight mechanism activated?
Yeah.
Right. Right. And you are crossing a particular line that would have been highly destructive, because secrets are the most isolating thing that there is. To have secrets,
Oh
things you
yeah.
can't talk about with people, things you can't say to people, and families demand secrets, and then they send you out in the world with this big giant Saturn's ring moat of secrets that keeps you distant from people, and you can't be yourself, you can't be honest, you can't be direct, because you're too full of secrets. Secrets isolate, they atomize, they distance. Secrets is like Mark Zuckerberg going jogging with his 17 different bodyguards. That's what secrets are. They're bodyguards that keep your family safe at the expense of your connection with others.
Yeah. Wow.
So you weren't physically punished, you were mocked and humiliated.
Yeah.
And what happened with your father?
With my father, would you remind me? I Why am I talking about my father? I'm so sorry.
Oh, why would you only want to talk about your mother?
Oh, um, so
We're
with my
equal
father.
opportunity revelations here. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, yes. Um, yes. So with my father, let's see, what's an example of my father? Oh, well, with my father, so he was the breadwinner in the family with his restaurant, and in particular in those days, he had a lot of money. So when my mother divorced my father, she got a lot of money. Um, and let's see, and so my mother spent all of the money she got from the divorce within something like 3, 4 years, and so she was broke again, and she had another kid. I have a half sister, and so she so I became this bridge of financial support for my mother, and so um, my father um, my father started getting distant
Hang on,
from
hang
me.
on, hang on.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's nothing to apologize for. Do you think it's clear to the world when you say, I became a bridge of financial support for my mother? How well do you think people understand that phrase?
Hmm. Like as in it's it's an overcomplicated way of saying that my mother's was depending on me having a relationship with my father.
I still don't know exactly what that means. So, do you mean that as long as you maintained a relationship with your father, your mother could threaten him with loss of custody or something else legal in order to get money from him?
Uh, no, yeah, and I see what you mean. How that's it's very abstract and vague. Financial bridge. Yeah, I didn't. That was a mistake of mine.
No, no,
Um,
please stop self-attacking. I'm not, I'm just trying to clarify and I'm trying to understand how connected you are to yourself and to who you're talking to, of course, in this case, me. And again, none of this is a criticism, brother, at all. None of this is a criticism.
no, I appreciate the feedback. I really do, and I'm not taking it, at least as best as I can. I'm not taking it as a criticism.
But you are reporting, not relating, right? So it's interesting. And
Yeah,
again, nothing negative, but when
that's a
you were
good
talking
point.
about your father, you were saying, okay, what's a good example or what's the best way to this, that, or the other, as opposed to simply saying what things were like with your dad. You
Right.
are reporting, not relating. Reporting is when you try to provide some sort of information without emotional connection.
Yeah.
And that's why these abstract phrases like a financial bridge to my mother emerge. They are emotionally distancing and more for you than for me or for the audience. How did you feel when you were with your father on the balance?
I felt tense. Um, my father would get angry at me, and sometimes it would be over minor offenses. And I mean, sorry, my he would get angry at me over trivial things, and so he would either it would be very tense or he would blow up and get very not very. He would get angry and occasionally very angry, like yell at me, and he would be all like upset for hours. And it was a very uncomfortable experience. Um, it's
So what does it look like when he gets angry at you and what does he say? What does it sound like?
He'll start yelling, insulting me. He'll talk about my mother. He'll blame me for things. Uh, I remember once he got angry at he blamed me for his financial failures and said that he could be better off if he never had me. That's an example of something.
How appalling. How appalling.
Yeah.
And what was your feeling or experience of hearing these things?
Uh, uh, it was just a lot of sadness. I remember many nights crying, um, kind of asking why did this happen to me? That's how I felt about it.
Why did this happen to me? It's not something that happened to you. It was something that was consciously done to you.
Yeah. No, of course. No, yeah. I know.
Okay, sadness. Tell me more about the sadness.
Um, even now, It's I feel like just like crying again. Uh, s- just can't think of more than that. It's just this feeling in my chest and my heart, kind of like feel as though my heart is aching.
Okay. If you were walking past a park, like a children's play park,
Uh,
and you saw a big, burly man shaking the tiny shoulders of a little boy and saying, "You little shit, I wish you'd never been born! My life would be so much better without you."
I would feel angry. Angry.
What's with all this sadness?
I think it's self pity.
No. Come on. Come on.
Uh,
That's just an insult to yourself. What's with all the sadness? And I'm not saying the sadness is bad or wrong or anything like that.
uh-huh.
But if you saw your father doing what he did to you to someone else, you'd feel angry. And all you've talked to me is about nervousness and sadness.
Huh. Hmm. Um. Hmm. I'm not sure. Maybe do you have any questions you can ask me that maybe might help?
Okay, let's give it a try. You be your dad, I be you.
Oh, okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so say something angry to me. And this is just a fantasy, right? We're just rolling things over in our minds. So your dad is angry at you. You've done something, and he says, what?
Um. Why are you doing this to me right now? I'm busy. I'm just on my break. What is going on?
Oh, yeah, Dad, sorry. I need you to do some actual parenting. Like, I need you to actually parent me. I need some feedback. I need some perspective. I need some help. And, you chose to become a father. So I'm just asking you, to do some parenting. You know, the way that people come into your restaurant and ask you to make some food? Because that's kind of your job, right? Well, your job as a parent is to give me some actual parenting. So that's what I'm asking for.
Well, I mean, when you put it that way, I mean, can't you wait? I just, like I said, I'm on my break. I work hard. You know that, and you live in this town that's much better than when where I grew up. I mean, what? Why do
Okay,
you need to
Dad,
be so
Dad,
demanding right
Dad,
now?
Dad, take a deep breath. Why are you talking about yourself again? I need you to focus. Look at me in the eyes, Dad. Look at me in the eyes. Human being here that you chose to create and keep. This is not about what town you grew up in. This is about something that I need from you as a father. Please provide.
Mm. I don't
You
get it,
don't work
son.
very
I
hard
don't
at
know what you
parenting.
want from me.
I can't remember the last time you sat me down and gave me some good advice or asked me what I was interested in or what books I was reading or what music I was listening to. You don't even know half my friends' names. I think it's fair to say you don't work very hard at parenting. That kind of affects me. So I need you to step up and do your job. Or at least start trying to do your job. Okay?
I think my father would get angry and just storm out at that point. He would, or he would yell at me.
Okay. So what would he yell at you?
I think he would just. What comes to mind is like since the scenario is about him on a break, he'd probably be eating, and he would just yell at me, "You're ruining my meal. You're ruining my time. How dare you? You spoiled kid, privileged kid." And then if that didn't shut me up, then
Okay. So then
he
I
would
would
walk
say,
away.
so you're a chef saying that the meal is bad as if you had no hand in it. So let's say that I am a spoiled, selfish, whatever kid. You're my dad. that's kind of on you, right? Because either you've been giving me advice, which has been bad advice, or you haven't been giving me advice, which is your fault. So the sculptor doesn't get to blame the sculpture. The cook doesn't get to blame the dish because they made by the sculptor and the cook. So how about you keep a civil tongue in your head, Dad, and stop insulting me because you're the dad and it's your job to make me a better person. So do not insult me.
And I think at that point he would go with this. I've heard him say this before. He'd be like, you know what, you're right. Whatever you say, and that's all you say. What do you want me to agree upon? What do you want me to say? And you just be like, yeah, you're right. Whatever. You know?
Okay, so Dad, are you saying to me that you have no idea how to be a parent or how to be a father? I mean, I get that you didn't have any idea how to be a good husband to Mom. That's pretty clear. Are you saying that when I ask you to be a father, you have no fucking clue what to do?
And he would just continue that. It's like, yeah, okay, you know what? Fine, you're right. Is there anything else?
So you have no desire to interact with your own child.
I think at this point he would say, you know what, son, he would use my name. He wouldn't call me son. Son, maybe it's time for you to spend some time with your mother. If you're going to continue this, if I have to, I'll go take you there right now.
Yeah, listen, that's no problem, Dad. I can go and spend time with Mom, but I'm going to tell you something that's kind of interesting. Listen, you have the size, you have the strength, you have the power, you have the economics, you have the law. You are the father. Now, you are being a really bad father. You're being a terrible father. And of course, you can do that. Right? There's no law that can make you be a good father. And clearly, my needs and preferences aren't enough for you to pick up a fucking parenting book and do your job. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Listen, you can make that choice. But I'll tell you this, man. Let me tell you how it's going to play out for you over time. See, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to get stronger, and you're going to grow old and you're going to get weaker. Now, when I become a teenager, you can't bully me, right? When I become an adult, you can't bully me. So I will tell you this. I am going to treat you, when you get older, I'm going to treat you, when I have the power, exactly as you have treated me when you have the power. Which means I'm going to tell the world what a shitty father you were. I'm going to tell the world what a shitty dad you are, what a manipulative, bitchy little pussy you are. Passive-aggressive, bullying, sad specimen of a human being who pushes around children like a big, strong man. That's what big, strong men do, is they bully their children. They're helpless, dependent children. So I'm going to tell the truth about you to Mom, to the world, and then when you get older and you want something from me, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So listen, you have all the power. Hey, I'm not going to argue with you about that now because you do. You have all the power. But that's not going to last forever. I promise you that. And then when I get older, the world is going to know the truth about you, Dad. Mom's going to know the truth the moment I see her. And when you come to me and you want anything, when you get old and are just a sad, pitiful old wrinkled specimen of a former failed fucking father, I'm going to walk away. Actually, I'm going to walk away before that. Because you know what? I don't want any woman. I know I'm a little kid, right? Whatever. It's a while to go. I get that. I don't want any woman who's going to be in my life to see you from the other side of the town. I don't want you to be around my grandkids. I don't want you to be around a good woman's family. And I do not want my children to have anything to do with you my future wife to have anything to do with you. So yeah, you push me around. Absolutely, man. Go for it. You're a big, strong, tough guy and push around a little boy. Ooh, tough guy. I beat up a girl guide and look at me. I'm Mike fucking Tyson. Big, strong man and push around a little kid. Ooh, what a hero. What a tough guy. God, it's sad and pathetic. Pitiful beyond fucking words. It's like me stepping on a mouse and saying, I'm King Kong, ooga, 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 big, strong. Oh. I slapped a bug. I'm a fighter. So, yeah, listen, totally fine. Push me around as much as you want, ignore me as much as you want. You pathetic old man. And you're going to get older, and I'm going to get stronger. And when I do, you can fuck right off.
Well, son, if that's how you feel and that makes you happy, then good luck with that.
And then I would just walk out with absolutely zero doubts about where I stood.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I would never recommend any child say this to their parent, right? Because,
of course. Yeah.
I mean, violence and so on, right? So he's that much of a passive-aggressive little bitch that he just shrugs and ignores any requests or requirements that you have.
Yeah. He would frame it as me being in a given moment as being, privileged or just demanding too much of him. Maybe
Demanding too
sometimes
much of
being
him.
selfish.
Yeah, because what he has to worry about is his customers at his stupid restaurant, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're living with your grandmother, and what's the status of your relationship with you?
Well, the status is I still speak to them, and it goes back to that niceness. I I act nice enough to get along with them, but it's very distant, and
Okay, don't bullshit me, bro.
oh, I'm sorry.
Don't snow me, man. I'm begging you. You think you're being nice to your parents?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
No,
I
I'm
see you.
yeah.
I just want to be nice to the lovely old people. That's
All
not
right.
niceness. What is that?
Yeah, that's me being uh, cold and passive aggressive.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what
Uh,
it is, but it's not niceness. I mean, unless they've fully reformed and gone to therapy and apologized and made as much restitution as they can, I mean, in which case, yay, but how is that not?
no, I think I misspoke. I meant to say I think I just meant to say I act nice around them. Like
Okay, why? And I'm not saying there's no reason. I just don't quite understand why.
why? Uh, well, what comes to me right now is when it comes to my father, I view him as very like he's like a predator. Like I don't want to um I don't want him to go after me or try to um like to mess up my life more. So it's kind of like I'm just camouflaging in and not
Sorry, but
being.
okay, so let's say your father's a predator. Let me ask you this. Are you frightened of lions in your
Yes.
life? Like you go home and your grandmother's place, you check in all over them, no lions. And you go
Oh,
downstairs, oh shit, look left and right. Got to see there are lions. Get on the bus, you check under the seat. What if there are lions? Like you do go through life nervous about lions.
no.
Well, why not? There are lions in the world.
Hmm. I see what you mean.
But why aren't you nervous of lions? There's tens of thousands of lions in the world, not to mention tigers.
Right.
Why aren't you spending your life checking for lions and tigers?
It's a good question. Hmm.
I mean, you know why, right?
No, I don't think so. No.
Sure you do. Why don't you check for lions when you're out and about in the town?
Well, because they're not native to this area. They're not around, and
Yeah,
if they
they're
are,
not
they're in
around.
cages.
They're not in the vicinity. Not like Old Man of the Sea, but the lions on the beach. You got to watch when you go on the beach, right? Could be lions. I don't check the bathtub for sharks because they're not there. Now, if I'm in the ocean, it's a different matter, but the bathtub, pretty safe. You know, there's some places where you have to check for snakes in the toilet, right?
Right.
Probably not where you are, not where I am.
Right.
So when you say, well, my father's a predator, okay. But he's only dangerous because he's in the vicinity.
Oh, I see.
Because he's there. I mean, if I keep a pit bull in the house that's dangerous, I got to worry about the pit bull in the house that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Why do I have a pit bull in the house that's dangerous? Why do you have someone in your life who's a predator?
Oh, yeah, it's right. For me, it was for me, it's it has to do with avoiding the blowback of not seeing my parents and not being around them. I mean, that like
listen,
society
maybe
has.
I'm sure that's a real thing. You know the situation infinitely better than I do. What's the blowback? What are you concerned about? And that's not to say your concerns aren't real, but what are your concerns?
Yeah. My concerns are well, with the few relationships I have, that they would they would stop being my friends and talking to me, and I would be completely isolated.
Sorry, your friends would be upset with you. And tell me a bit about that. You mean like your peers, your social circle?
Yeah. In particular, I'm thinking about a friend of mine where he dislikes his parents, but he's like, oh, just you just kind of suck it up and deal with it. It is what it is. Is
Oh,
yeah.
your passive friend.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, if you want to keep your relationships, I'm not going to talk you out of that. I just want you to know there are costs and benefits.
I appreciate that.
So what are the costs of keeping yourself in this nervous, not that you're immature, but it keeps you in a subservient, immature person? Do you think you sound like a man in his 30s?
No, I don't.
Right.
Absolutely not.
And do you think that women are attracted to confidence and authority?
Yes, they are.
And can you be confident and authoritative if you're living with granny and frightened of mommy and daddy?
No.
Right. So what's the cost?
A virtuous woman, as well as peers that are moral, philosophical, virtuous, as well as my own self-respect.
Okay, so sell me on, if you don't mind, if you want to. Obviously, it's up to you. I'm not going to give you orders because that's what your dad does. But sell me how
Thanks.
it's worth it going forward.
It's not that's what started my curiosity into philosophy and watching
When did
lots
that
of your
start?
shows. 26.
I'm sorry?
26. When I was 26 years old.
So like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So for 5 years, you've thought it's not worth it.
I started from I don't know if this is going to work or not. I don't understand it. It was very foreign to me. I remember your show on Introduction to Virtue. It was like a several parts. And I just remember coming out of it feeling very confused. And I remember watching it over again, but it was
Okay, so the
just-
reason, sorry to interrupt, the reason I'm saying this is because after 5 years of studying philosophy, and I won't say my brand of philosophy because I think that what I'm doing is just good philosophy.
It really is, yeah.
Okay, so after 5 years, you come to me with what statement about virtue? What did you say at the beginning that virtue was?
Oh, I said that it's being nice and getting along.
Right.
So I didn't.
Don't stumble on me. Why is this outrageous to me? Doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. I'm just telling you my response is it's outrageous that after 5 years of studying philosophy as I practice it, you come and say, well, you see, virtue is being nice and conciliatory and appeasing people who abused you. Me, of all people.
Well, my question was about moral principles.
Don't, Naomi. No. I'm not mad at you at all, just so you know. I just think it's really fascinating. Right? If you were to go to Michaela Peterson and say, I've been studying your diet for 5 years, so help me understand why tomatoes and mozzarella is your recommended diet. And what would she say? I don't know if you know her diet. She's like some carnivore thing, right?
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
So if you were to just call her up in public and say, hey, man, I've been following your work for 5 years. I'm having trouble with the meat-free diet that you recommend. What would she say to you?
She would be baffled and confused.
Hello. Welcome to Steph being baffled and confused. Been dazed and confused for so long it's not true. So I'm baffled and confused. Now, that I'm pointing this out, I mean, do you know anything about my history? Has that shown up in your...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm familiar with your mother, your father.
Okay.
Your father abandoned you, so on.
So am I nice and seek their approval and conciliatory towards them?
No.
Do I think of myself as a reasonably virtuous person?
Yes.
So why the fuck would you call me up and say, Steph, so virtue is the opposite of what you've done and what you've counseled for 21 years. Tell me more about virtue.
I just, because I thought over my...
No, I need you to stop stumbling. Really think with me through this, because this is not a criticism. It's not a criticism. It's fascinating. I think your father sent you, but that's a different matter, psychologically. Do you understand why it's a challenge to hear?
Yes. No, I do understand why it's a challenge to hear that.
So what the fuck are you doing? Again, I say this with all friendliness and curiosity. Help me understand, brother. Were you aware that it was very goading and very, and again, I'm saying this without moral judgment, incredibly undermining of what I do?
No, if I had, I did not know. No,
Okay. Did you know that you were telling me that virtue was the opposite of everything I've done and counseled?
I didn't know we were talking about virtue. I was talking about moral principles.
Okay, whatever. Moral principles, virtue, they're kind of interchangeable for the sake of this conversation, right?
To me, with understanding moral principles as a whole, both moral principles that are UPB and moral principles that don't abide to UPB, that's what I thought I was talking about. But also, too, I don't understand it that well, and so that's why I can't.
No. You're fudging. You're doing to me what your father did to me in the role play, which is going kind of rubber bones.
Okay.
Let's just start this
would
again.
You explain
listen, maybe this isn't the right venue for the conversation, so if that's the case, that's fine. But do I define virtue as being nice to people and getting along with everyone?
No, you've never defined it as that way.
In fact, the opposite. Which is you pursue truth regardless of who it upsets.
In particular, honesty, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, does virtue anger the corrupt and immoral?
Absolutely.
Okay. So how can virtue, if it angers the corrupt and the immoral, how can virtue be getting along with everyone?
It isn't.
Okay. So Why would you bring that definition to me? And it's fine if you bring that definition to me, bring whatever definition you want, but I need you to be conscious of how you appear and come across to others. And I say this again, great sympathy, deep, big hug, nothing wrong with anything you're doing, but because you didn't get emotional feedback as a child, you got manipulated, you got used, you got gaslit, so you're kind of swinging wildly here because as a kid you never connected. If you're a kid and you pick up a baseball bat in the middle of a field and you swing it around to get the heft and so on, you don't hit anything because it's the middle of a field, right? But if you do it in a china shop, that's a different matter. Now it was just a field. There was no people giving you feedback. Sorry for that Captain Kirk moment. No, people giving you feedback. So you say stuff without a sense of what it's like to be on the receiving end of that stuff because people didn't respond to you much as a child. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
Right. So I'm giving you that feedback. And again, 0% hostility, 0% upset in terms of like, oh, it's bad. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah. So moral principle has then multiple definitions. And the way in which I brought up moral principles, it was as if I was talking about virtue then.
No, don't rubber bone me. Don't dad me, bro. Don't dad me.
I'm trying to see
you what
where
your
the
definition
error.
of morality was, and you said it's getting along with people and being nice to everyone or something like that, right?
I even wrote down what the definition I was talking about. Can I, like I said, I'm
And listen,
I'm sorry about this misunderstanding. I really am.
If I have misrepresented or misremembered something, I'm gonna beg for the indulgence of the chat. Because it's always important to, am I wrong about his definition? Because we had a whole conversation about this definition of being nice to people, which is kind of how we got into the childhood and the family. And listen, I can make mistakes. I can be wrong. Please to tell me, please to tell me, right? To tell me. I can type. I really can. And smiley face, so everyone knows I'm not upset. People say I am not wrong about his definition. And again, no problem. We have a disagreement. That's fine. No big issue.
I'm just
people are saying that that I am roughly correct that you said virtue or morality was about being nice to people and getting along with people. It's what I remember. It's what the chat remembers and so on. Somebody says, I think he did say it, but didn't mean it. Well, no, we don't do mind reading. His initial definition was about being nice. Okay. So yeah, that was. He said that your philosophy was being nice to as many people as possible, getting along with them, etc. You're not wrong about his definition. So yeah, I mean, I and again, no problem. Well, it's not a problem, but yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
What I'm wondering is, like, to me, I'm looking at this situation. I'm looking at my, like, I thought about this a lot. I wrote down notes and such, and like, I know this sounds wrong, but like I understand, virtue as by definition an empirical preference that's universal. And so to me, I'm like, I'm not talking about virtue. I'm talking about like I want to understand people's morals as a whole. So both the morals that are UVB compliant and those that are not. And so that was the subject I wanted to bring, and it just sounds like I made a catastrophic mistake. And
no, it's not a catastrophic. No, hang on, it's not a catastrophic mistake. That's not doom and gloom. It's just a conversation.
It's immensely embarrassing to me. Like I know that maybe I am overreacting. I just feel utterly
No, because listen, don't be embarrassed at all. Don't be embarrassed. It's just a conversation. Don't be embarrassed. Right. But the question is, how have you been living? Have you been living with the idea that it's good to get along with people and be nice? Because it sounds like that's how you've been living with regards to your family.
That is how I've been living.
Your practical, applied, empirical definition of virtue. Now, you said
Yeah,
I had
that's a good
said
way
it
of
or
putting
something
it.
like that. It's not a mistake, because if you were to tell me, I mean, you know that I'm kind of a bloodhound when it comes to the source of things, the origin stories. So if you were
Very
to
much so,
tell,
yeah.
okay, can you please just let me finish my thought? This talking
Oh,
in
I'm
my
so
ear
sorry.
shit drives me absolutely bananas. And you know that, right? So you got to let me finish my thought before you talk in my ear, if you don't mind. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So if you were to say to me, Steph, I'm following your philosophy and my life isn't working out, which is totally fine. It's like calling up a diet expert and saying, I'm following your diet and I'm 300 pounds. I'm doing everything you say and I'm gaining 3 pounds a week or whatever for like 2 years.
Yeah.
That would be discreditable towards the philosophy. And if I say, well, like if I was a diet expert and I said something like, follow the Mediterranean diet, and you said, listen, Steph, you define a good diet as cheesecake, bonbons, and M&Ms, and I've been following that, I would have to say, that's not how I define a good diet. But if you have, in fact, been eating cheesecake, bonbons, and M&Ms, there would be a short circuit, right? So if you say, well, I'm reading this diet book, I'm doing the opposite of what the diet book guy says, and I'm going to call him up, it's kind of tough. Because if you'd have said to me, Steph, your definition of virtue is the moral courage to pursue the truth despite opposition, to pursue virtue and spread truth, honor, and integrity and virtue, and to accept and try and roll with as best you can the inevitable blowback from evildoers, right? Then that would be, closer to my definition of virtue. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So then if you said, this is the definition of virtue, and I start to ask you about your life, and you say, I'm still in contact with my relentlessly gaslighting or abusive or whatever they're doing parents. I'm living with my grandmother and I'm best friends with someone who says, keep the peace no matter what. You understand that would be a contradiction, right?
It is a contradiction. I understand it's a contradiction.
The virtues that you're living, that you're actually making your decisions on, and then you said, Steph, this is what you say is virtue. And again, I'm not criticizing you. I'm not nagging you. I just want to be clear about this. I find it fascinating.
Yeah.
But this is the price.
What is the
Because
price?
if you are this confusing, like I'm an expert communicator, I've been doing this for decades. If I have a true Gordian knot to untangle in your communication, can a woman fall in love with you?
No,
or are
no,
you
no, she can't.
confusing as fuck sometimes, which we all are, right? But you know what I mean?
No, I'm above average in terms of confusion. It's one of the things my parents neglected. They're just like, "Oh, you're fine, you're okay. Your English is great." And I know what you mean. And it's like it's just to shut me up. So I would leave them alone. But anyways,
Right. And the price of having people in your life that you're scared of is self-respect and moral courage. And I'm not saying you don't have self-respect, and I'm not saying you don't have moral courage, but in terms of like the practical application of it, you can't voluntarily put yourself in prison and have free range of the universe. And you can't say my highest value is appeasing corrupt and immoral people, and I'm going to get the love of a virtuous woman.
Sure.
Because you said I can't date while I'm still with my family, and you're still with your family, right?
Right. I mean, yes.
And so you have chosen to not date, and you will not get a quality partner if you are still subjugated to a corrupt and immoral family or friendships. A quality woman comes and meets your friend who's like, yeah, just roll with it. It's not a big deal. You take care of your parents. Just be nice to everyone. And these are the people, I think, who've done the most damage to you in your life, your family of origin. And a virtuous, morally courageous woman of great integrity and honor, dignity and decency comes and sees your environment. Does she want to marry into it?
Absolutely not.
Does she want this influence around her children?
Oh my God, no.
Does she look at you as someone she can really admire for his moral fiber and moral strength?
No.
And again, none of this is to make you feel bad. You can choose whatever you want, obviously. I mean, I think there are better and worse choices, but I can't make them for you. So you can choose whatever you want. I just really, really need you to know the costs and the benefits. And I need you to be clear on what it's costing you to be nice to people who aren't nice to you. Hey, I'm real nice to people who are nice to me. You know, you haven't treated me badly in this conversation. And so, you know, I'm nice to people who are nice to me. Fantastic. People who aren't nice to me, yeah, I'll tell them. I'll have a couple of conversations about it. If they're still not nice to me, because see, you're kind of living like you've got forever, right? I mean, you're in your 30s. You just turned 30, right? So
Yeah.
you're not with an excess of time, because the longer you go without a relationship, the worse at relationships you're going to be. You know, when I was a little kid, I spoke German pretty fluently.
Yeah.
I stopped studying it, and how much German can I speak now? I stopped speaking it, I stopped studying it, I stopped using it, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, for my master's degree, I had to translate French on the fly, and I was pretty good at it. And how well can I translate French now? Because I haven't kept up with it, I haven't practiced it.
Yeah, it's like you're a beginner.
Right. So you have trained yourself as an adult to appeasement out of fear and to taking a short-term easy route over a long-term difficult route. And that has conditioned your professional life. It's conditioned your friendships. It's conditioned your family life. Of course, it's conditioned your romantic life or lack thereof. And so you can choose whatever you want. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you that. It's a free will situation. I just need you to know the cost, because what you get right now is the benefits of not having a volatile situation with your family, which I hugely sympathize with, and I'm very sorry and sad about it. And you didn't deserve any of this. You didn't ask for it. You didn't want it. Nobody's responsible for the family they're born into. And I'm really sorry that this is the family you were born into. It's really tragic and horrible and so on. And if you were 20, that would be a different matter. 25, yeah, but 30, especially if you've been listening to philosophy for 5 years. If you choose to continue on the path you are on, you will not get married to a quality woman. You will not become a good father. I just need to be clear.
Agree.
I need to be clear about that.
Yeah.
Because I'm in very fortunate possession, and not just fortunate, I think I've earned it, but I'm in very fortunate possession of having a number of high quality females around me. I know the mindset fairly well.
Yeah.
And I have some idea of what they're looking for, and they're looking for moral courage and wisdom, which means you don't just run headlong into battle when you can't win, but, you know, some moral courage, some self-knowledge, some wisdom, and they're looking for high-quality relationships in the men that they would date. And you will not meet their standards because you have chosen to be nice rather than to be honest. And that comes out of fear. Men are not designed to be nice. Women, a little bit more, right? Women score very high in the trait called agreeableness, and they need to get along. And I get all of that for sure. And women can teach us mechanical men a little bit more about diplomacy and the right time and the right place and the Aristotelian mean of courage and foolhardiness and cowardice. So women have a lot to teach men, for sure. Great stuff. But your woman needs you to protect her. It's biological. It's real deep down.
Agree.
And you need to be able to deal with a wolf coming through the door. And if you're jumping on the chair because there's a mouse, it's just going to make her ovaries turn into the Sahara Desert, right?
Right.
And it's going to be very hard for you to have the confidence and security and authority to attract a strong woman, a moral woman, a quality woman, if that makes sense. So if you want to stay with your family of origin, as you know, I've never told anyone to leave. It's not my choice, right? I need
Yeah.
you to know the cost benefits.
Yeah, and this kind of honesty is what I seek from your show.
Mhm.
It's helpful, it's honest, it's also true, and in particular cases, you provide proofs and such, and so this is why I'm here and why I continue to persist to learn and such.
Okay. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
Uh, Besides, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate your sympathy. Um, I'm very grateful, and I'm looking forward to just, listening to this over again because it's been very helpful.
And hopefully I didn't get the whole definition wrong. I appreciate that. And thank you so much for dropping by. I hope you'll stay in touch. All right. We'll do one more caller. Luke. Star Wars jokes will be eschewed. What is on your mind? Going once, I know it's been a long call, so maybe you've dropped off.
Okay.
Are you calling from an
Hi,
aquarium?
Stefan. I
Yes.
was up here with you last time, but Brad didn't plan to leave when I did. And we were talking about psychology. And you had a lot to say about, psychologists' view on child abuse. And I've been thinking, does that have anything to do with a certain PhD at the University of Toronto? Or we can't talk about that?
Hello?
Yeah, hello? Can you hear me clearly? Yeah. So there's a professor at the
I
University of
had
Toronto.
a
I saw
question. I'm not sure if you can hear me or not.
Sorry, let me switch to 4G.
I'm not sure why you would
Yeah.
call in on a bad line, but okay, go ahead. Can you
Yeah.
hear me now?
I want to know, is it wrong
Can
for a
you hear
psychologist?
me? This is not why you just get to keep talking. Can you hear me? No, looks like not. I got to tell you, if somebody calls in and say, well, you've got a lot to say about this, that, and the other, I view that as a pretty hostile verbal move, right? Because it's not dealing with any content, it's dealing with form in a critical manner. So I wasn't sure what he meant by you have a lot to say about this, that, or the other. So, but I guess he has called in on a bad line, and I'm not going to waste your time anymore with that. All right, so we'll take the person at the top. Cost something or other. If you wanted to let me know what is on your mind, I'd be happy to hear. But yeah, don't start off conversation with sort of a dig. Well, you got a lot to say about this, and it's like, I don't know what that means, but it doesn't sound particularly positive. And also, if you're going to call into a line, particularly a live stream, maybe don't be on 2 yogurt cups, a piece of string, and some Pony Express. It's just kind of polite or reasonable to, if you got to dial from a landline or a cell phone, that's fine too. We can maybe take those. All right.
Oh, hey, Stefan, man. I haven't spoke to you before. I'm sure we don't agree on everything. I'm very radical. I'm within, like, I guess I'm associated with, like, Handsome Truth and I guess the Goyim Defense League. I don't know how you feel about that. I don't want to get too deep into it. Regardless, I saw Luke McKee was up here. I just want to clarify, he is a race mixer. He doesn't have white children, and he has betrayed his bloodline.
Do you have a philosophical question or comment?
No. Well, just a comment on Luke McKee betraying his race to go have gook children, which I found to be problematic.
All right. I don't know why people do this kind of stuff. Obviously, race mixing is fine. It is not a violation of the non-aggression principle. So, although, it does put particular burdens on the young who might have difficulty fitting in two places. So I'm sorry that we are, well, we're out of callers that I want to talk to. So freedomain.com/donate to help out your friendly neighborhood philosopher, freedomain.com/donate, shop.freedomain.com for your merch, freedomain.com/books. For the books, you can get your physical copies too now, which are going to be a little harder to yank from the ether. And I hope you would check out peacefulparenting.com and share it. There's the AI there as well. And remember, if you go to freedomain.com/donate, you sign up for a subscription, you get hundreds of podcasts, you get a bunch of AIs, call-in shows, Bitcoin, the generalized Steph AI trained on huge amounts of my material, which is only available to donors. So I hope you would check that out. And I really do appreciate everybody dropping by tonight. There will be no show on Sunday. I will be ascending to a higher plane. All right, so we'll get back to you next week. And don't forget, call.freedomain.com to book your call-in show. I'd love to chat with you more. And that may be of value to the lengthy caller tonight. And lots of love, my friends. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.